a rich husband, planned a surprise anniversary party. Then discovered his wife was with her ex. Alexander Grant planned the anniversary party because he was afraid his marriage was slipping away. Not because he wanted applause. Not because he wanted another photo in a society magazine. Not because rich men liked proving love with rooms full of flowers and champagne. He planned it because, after 10 years of marriage, he had finally begun to understand that his wife had been lonely beside him. For years, Alexander had believed love was something you built. A mansion, a bank account, a reputation, a future safe from ordinary worries. He believed a husband protected his wife by making sure nothing could touch her. Not unpaid bills, not instability, not discomfort, not fear. So he worked. He built. He invested. He bought. He provided. And slowly, without meaning to, he left Madison alone inside the life he had created for her. Their Beverly Hills mansion had everything people dreamed of: marble floors, a pool glowing blue beneath palm trees, a private theater, a wine cellar, a balcony overlooking the city lights, and a driveway where luxury cars sat like trophies. But in the evenings, when Alexander was away at meetings or locked in his office on calls, Madison often walked through those beautiful rooms, feeling like a guest in a museum, dedicated to her husband's success. People called her lucky. At charity events, women touched her arm and said, "Madison, your life is a dream." She always smiled. That was what she had learned to do. Smile when people praised the house. Smile when they praised Alexander. Smile when they praised the marriage. Smile when she wanted to say, "A dream can still feel empty when you wake up alone inside it." Alexander was not cruel. That made everything more complicated. He did not shout at her. He did not humiliate her. He did not betray her openly. He loved her in the language he understood: security, gifts, beautiful trips, expensive dinners, public admiration. But Madison needed something smaller and harder for him. She needed time. She needed presence. She needed him to ask how she was and stay long enough to hear the truth. By the time Alexander realized that, Madison had already started answering someone else. The surprise party was supposed to be his apology. Their 10th anniversary was 2 weeks away. When Alexander sat alone in his office after midnight, looking at a framed wedding photo on his desk. In the photo, Madison stood beside him in a simple lace gown, laughing at something he had whispered during the reception. Alexander remembered that day clearly. He remembered how nervous he had been. He remembered the way she squeezed his hand before they entered the ballroom. He remembered thinking that success finally meant something because she was there to share it. Then he looked at the woman in the photo and felt a sharp sadness. When had he stopped making her laugh like that? The next morning, he called an event planner named Evelyn. "I want to plan a private anniversary party," he said. "10th anniversary. Very discreet. Of course, Mr. Grant. How many guests?" "Close friends and family only. Maybe 40. Venue?" "The Meridian Hotel Ballroom." "The rooftop ballroom?" "Yes. That's one of the most beautiful rooms in Los Angeles." "I know, she loves the view. What kind of mood are you imagining?" Alexander Pause. For most events, he would have said elegant, polished, impressive. This time he said warm. Evelyn was quiet for a second. "Warm," she repeated. "That helps. I don't want this to feel like a business gala. I don't want it to look like I hired people to decorate my guilt. That's very specific. It needs to be." He looked again at the wedding photo. "I don't want this to be about money," he said. "I want her to remember that I still see her." That sentence surprised even him. Because once he said it, he understood how long it had been since Madison had felt seen. Over the next 2 weeks, Alexander planned every detail. White roses, because Madison carried them on their wedding day. A small jazz trio, because she hated loud bands. A private menu with dishes from the first trip they took together in Italy. A video montage of their marriage. Not only the glamorous moments, but ordinary ones. Madison in sunglasses eating fries in a parking lot. Madison asleep on a plane with her head on his shoulder. Madison dancing barefoot in their old apartment kitchen. He bought a diamond necklace, but for once, the gift was not the center of the apology. The speech was. Alexander wrote it by hand. He rewrote it 6 times. The first line stayed the same. "Madison, I spent years building a life for you, but I forgot to live that life with you." Every time he read it aloud, his throat tightened. He imagined her hearing it. He imagined her understanding. He imagined that maybe, after years of emotional distance, one honest night might open a door back to each other. He did not know Madison was already standing at another door, one that led backward. Ethan Cole returned to Madison's life, like a memory wearing a familiar smile. He had been her first serious love, long before Alexander. In college, Ethan had been reckless, artistic, impossible to predict, and impossible to forget. He played guitar badly but confidently, wrote long messages at 2 a.m, and convinced Madison that the world was bigger than the safe life her parents wanted for her. Their relationship had been intense and unstable. Ethan loved grand words but not commitment. He loved Madison, or at least he said he did, but when a job opportunity took him to New York, he left with promises that slowly became excuses. Madison cried for months. Then she met Alexander. Alexander was different. He called when he said he would. He showed up. He remembered details. He made her feel safe. At 25, safety felt like love. At 35, trapped inside a beautiful but lonely marriage, safety began to feel like a glass wall. Ethan found her through a message on social media. Madison Grant. I saw your photo from the museum gala. Still the most beautiful woman in any room. Madison stared at the message for a long time before replying. Ethan Cole. Still saying things too dramatically. Only to people who deserve drama. She smiled. That was the first secret. At first, their messages were harmless enough to deny. Old memories. Shared jokes. Photos from the past. Ethan was back in Los Angeles for work, consulting for an art foundation and staying at a boutique hotel downtown. He suggested coffee. Madison said no, then maybe, then only if it was quick. They met at a quiet cafe far from Beverly Hills. When Madison saw him, her heart did something foolish. He looked older, but the years suited him. His hair was darker than she remembered, his face sharper, his eyes still carrying that same dangerous warmth. Madison, he said, just her name, but it made her feel like the girl she had been before marriage became image, charity boards, social expectations, and waiting. They talked for an hour. Then, too, Ethan asked about her life. Madison gave polite answers at first. Alexander was doing well. The business was thriving. The house was beautiful. They were busy. Life was good. Ethan listened with a faint smile. What? She asked. You sound like a brochure. She looked down. That's rude. It's true. I have a good life. I didn't say you didn't. Then what are you saying? He leaned forward. I'm asking whether you're in it. The question slipped beneath her defenses. Madison did not answer. That silence was the beginning of the emotional affair. Ethan became the person who asked the questions Alexander did not. At least, that was what Madison told herself. He asked what she missed. She said, feeling spontaneous. He asked what she hated. She said, being admired by people who don't know me. He asked whether Alexander loved her. She said yes. He asked whether she felt loved. She did not answer. Ethan never attacked Alexander directly at first. He was smarter than that. He only gave shape to Madison's loneliness and let her resentment fill it. A man can give you a mansion and still leave you outside his heart, he texted one night. Madison deleted the message, then restored it, then deleted it again. Secrecy became a habit before betrayal became an act. By the time Alexander began planning the anniversary party, Madison had already met Ethan 3 times. Nothing physical had happened yet. That was how she excused it. No kiss, no hotel room, no affair, just conversation, just old feelings, just a mistake she could still walk away from. But emotional betrayal has its own fingerprints. She hid her phone. She lied about errands. She became distant when Alexander mentioned the anniversary. One evening, while Alexander sat beside her on the couch, he said, "Do you remember our wedding song?" Madison looked up sharply. "What?" "Our wedding song." "Of course." He smiled. "You hesitated." "I didn't." "You did." She forced a laugh. "Maybe because you never ask questions like that." That hurt him, but he accepted it. "I've been thinking about us," he said. Madison's phone buzzed under a throw pillow. Ethan. Her body reacted before she could hide it. Alexander noticed. "Everything okay?" "Yes. Just a message from the charity committee." He nodded. She hated how easily he believed her, and she hated herself for wanting him not to. On the afternoon of their anniversary, Madison told Alexander she had a spa appointment. The party was scheduled for 7 that evening. Alexander acted casual at breakfast, though he was nervous enough to barely eat. The guests had been contacted secretly. The ballroom was being prepared. The slideshow was ready. The necklace was locked in his office safe. His speech was folded inside his jacket pocket. Madison sat across from him, scrolling through her phone. "What are your plans today?" he asked. She looked up. "Spa at 1. Maybe a few errands after." "Sounds nice. Don't sound so surprised. I'm glad you're doing something for yourself." Her expression softened slightly. For a moment, guilt rose in her chest. "What about you?" she asked. "Meetings," he said smoothly. "Nothing exciting." "On our anniversary?" He smiled. "Unfortunately." She nodded, disappointment flickering across her face. That made him ache. He wanted to tell her. He wanted to say, "No, not meetings. Tonight I am going to try to repair what I broke. Tonight I am going to tell you in front of everyone that I failed you and still love you." Instead, he kept the secret because it was supposed to become joy later. Madison left the house at noon. She wore a cream dress and sunglasses. She kissed Alexander on the cheek before leaving. "Happy anniversary," she said softly. He took her hand before she could pull away. "Happy anniversary." For 1 second, something passed between them. A memory. A question. A chance. Then her phone buzzed. Madison stepped back. "I'll see you later." Alexander watched her leave, not knowing she was not going to the spa. She was going downtown. To Ethan, the boutique hotel was called The Lark. It was smaller than the grand hotels Alexander preferred, with dark green walls, brass lamps, velvet chairs, and a quiet lounge hidden behind a row of indoor palms. Ethan had chosen it because it felt private. Madison arrived at 1:30. He stood when he saw her. "You came." "I shouldn't have." "But you did." She sat across from him, uneasy. "I can't stay long." "It's your anniversary." "Don't say it like that." "How should I say it?" "Like you understand this is hard." Ethan leaned back. "Hard is watching you go home to a man who thinks he can keep you with parties and diamonds." Madison stiffened. "Alexander doesn't know about any party." Ethan studied her face. "What?" "Nothing." "What?" "You're disappointed." "I'm not." "You are. It's your anniversary, and he's in meetings." Madison looked away. She did not know Alexander was across town, overseeing a ballroom full of white roses. Ethan reached across the table and touched her hand. "You don't belong in a marriage where you have to beg to be noticed." She should have pulled away. She did not. "Ethan, I remember you," he said, "before all of this, before houses and social calendars and being Mrs. Grant. That was a long time ago." "No, it's still there. You're still there." Madison's eyes filled. That was the danger of Ethan. He made the past feel like rescue. He made unfinished business feel like destiny. He made escape feel like truth. She whispered, "I love my husband." "I know. Then why are you doing this?" "Because loving him hasn't made you happy." The sentence was unfair. It was also close enough to her pain to hurt. Her phone buzzed. "Alexander." She looked at the screen and did not answer. Ethan watched. Madison turned the phone face down. Across town, Alexander stood in the Meridian Ballroom, surrounded by flowers, calling the wife he was trying to surprise. The ballroom was perfect. White roses filled the room in low crystal arrangements. Candles lined the tables. Through the tall windows, Los Angeles stretched below in gold afternoon light. The small jazz trio tested a soft version of their wedding song. On a screen near the stage, a paused image showed Alexander and Madison on their honeymoon in Italy, laughing under a striped awning. Evelyn, the event planner, approached Alexander with a clipboard. "Everything is on schedule. Guests begin arriving at 6:30. Madison arrives at 7? That's the plan. Does she suspect anything?" Alexander smiled faintly. "I don't think so." He checked his phone. No answer. He texted, "Hope the spa is relaxing. What time do you think you'll be home?" A few minutes later, Madison replied, "Still at the spa. Maybe around 6:30. Alexander frowned. The spa was in West Hollywood. If she left at 6:30, she would not be home in time for him to bring her to the party by 7. He opened their shared location app, not out of suspicion, at least, not at first. They had shared locations for years, mostly for safety and convenience. He wanted to see how far she was so he could adjust the timing. The map loaded. Madison was not at the spa. She was downtown, at the Lark Hotel. Alexander stared at the screen. For a moment, he told himself there was a reasonable explanation. Maybe the spa had changed locations. Maybe she was meeting a friend. Maybe she had gone to pick up something from a boutique nearby. Then he remembered Ethan. Weeks earlier, Madison had casually mentioned running into him. Ethan Cole is back in Los Angeles, she said while pouring wine. Alexander looked up. You're Ethan? She laughed too quickly. My Ethan? No, just Ethan. College Ethan. Still a photographer? Something like that. Her tone had been casual. Too casual, he now realized. Alexander looked at the location again. The Lark Hotel. He called Madison once more. No answer. A coldness spread through him. Evelyn came over. Mr. Grant, is everything okay? Alexander locked his phone. I need to step out. Guests will arrive soon. I know. Should we delay anything? He looked around the ballroom. At the roses. The candles. The slideshow. The beautiful room built to celebrate a marriage he feared he had already lost. Just keep everything ready, he said. Then he left. Alexander drove himself downtown. Traffic was heavy, but he barely noticed. His phone sat on the passenger seat, the location dot still glowing at the Lark. As he drove, memories rearranged themselves. Madison hiding her phone. Madison becoming quiet when the anniversary came up. Madison saying she missed who she was before all this. Madison mentioning Ethan, then changing the subject. Each memory had seemed harmless alone. Together they became a map. Still, Alexander hoped he was wrong. That was the worst part. Even as suspicion grew, love kept offering excuses. Maybe Ethan was not there. Maybe she was meeting him only to talk. Maybe she was ending something before it became worse. Maybe. Hope can be humiliating when truth is already waiting. The Lark Hotel glowed warmly beneath early evening light. Alexander parked across the street and walked toward the entrance. Through the glass wall of the lounge, he saw Madison. She sat in a corner booth. Ethan sat across from her. They were close. Too close. Ethan was holding her hand. Madison was crying. Alexander stopped outside the glass. A strange calm settled over him. The way it did in business crises when a deal collapsed and emotion became useless. Then Ethan stood, moved beside Madison, and kissed her. Not on the cheek. Not briefly. A kiss with history inside it. Madison did not pull away immediately. That was the moment Alexander's hope died. Inside his jacket pocket, the anniversary speech pressed against his chest. Across town, a ballroom waited to celebrate the marriage. Here, behind glass, his wife was kissing the past. Alexander into the lounge. Madison saw him first. Her entire body froze. Ethan pulled back and followed her gaze. For a moment, the three of them remained locked in silence while the quiet music of the hotel played around them. Madison stood slowly. Alexander. He looked at her. He had imagined many versions of the evening. Madison surprised. Madison crying with joy. Madison listening to his speech. Madison forgiving him for the years he had been present in money and absent in heart. He had not imagined her standing beside Ethan Cole with guilt on her face and his kiss still visible in the air between them. Alexander's voice was quiet. I was across town preparing a room full of people to celebrate our marriage, Madison. And you were here with the man you never let go. Her face crumpled. What? He laughed once, brokenly. Yes, he said. There is a party. Surprise. Madison covered her mouth. No. White Roses. Our wedding song. Your sister flew in from Boston. My mother is probably already there. I wrote a speech. Tears filled her eyes. Alexander, please. Were you going to leave here and come home to me? Yes. After this? She could not answer. Ethan stepped forward. Alexander, this isn't all on her. Alexander turned his eyes to him. No? She's been lonely. I know. You weren't there. I know that too. Ethan looked almost surprised by the admission. Alexander stepped closer. But you did not offer her freedom. You offered her a hiding place. Ethan's jaw tightened. You don't know what we had. I know exactly what you had, Alexander said, a past comfortable enough to ask nothing responsible from either of you. Madison whispered, Stop. Alexander looked at her. Did you know? Know what? That I was trying tonight? She shook her head, crying. No. I finally understood I had been failing you, he said. Too late, maybe. But I understood. I was going to tell you that in front of everyone. I was going to apologize. Not with diamonds, not with a party, with the truth. Madison began sobbing. He touched his jacket pocket and pulled out the folded speech. For 1 second, he looked at it. Then he held it up. This was supposed to be your surprise, he said. I never thought the real surprise would be finding out who still had your heart. I don't know that he does, Madison cried. Alexander's face twisted with pain. That may be worse. Ethan reached for Madison's arm. She pulled away. That small movement told Alexander the affair was already collapsing under the weight of reality. But too late. He placed the folded speech on the table. "Read it," he said. "Not because it changes anything, because I need you to know what I was doing while you were here." Then he turned and walked out. Madison called his name. He did not stop. Alexander returned to the Meridian Ballroom alone. Guests had begun arriving. His mother stood near the entrance, smiling nervously when she saw him. "Alexander? Where is Madison?" He looked past her into the room. People were talking softly, holding champagne, admiring the flowers. Madison's sister waved from across the room, excited and unaware. The video screen still showed the honeymoon photo. Evelyn approached quickly. "Mr. Grant?" Alexander looked at the party he had built from regret. It was beautiful and useless. "End it," he said quietly. Evelyn blinked. "Excuse me? Please tell the guests there has been a private family emergency. Send them home. Pay the staff double. Donate the food somewhere. I don't care where." His mother touched his arm. "What happened?" Alexander looked at her. For a moment, he was not a rich man, not a real estate investor, not someone powerful. He was simply a husband standing in a room full of proof that he had tried too late. "I found her," he said. His mother's face changed. "With him?" she asked softly. Alexander closed his eyes. That was answer enough. The party ended without a public scene. Guests whispered, of course. They always do. People left with confusion, sympathy, curiosity, and half-finished champagne. The jazz trio packed up without playing. The cake remained untouched. The roses stayed perfect until staff began removing them from the tables. Alexander waited until the room was empty. Then he walked to the stage. The microphone stood ready. The screen behind him still showed Madison laughing in Italy. He took the diamond necklace box from his pocket and placed it on the table beside the untouched cake. Then he sat alone in the ballroom until the candles burned low. Madison came home after midnight. The mansion was dark except for the foyer light. Alexander was not there. On the dining table lay the diamond necklace box and the folded speech. Madison stood over them, shaking. She opened the box first. The necklace was delicate, elegant, breathtaking. Something the old Madison would have admired. Something the new Madison could barely look at. Then she unfolded the speech. The first line made her knees weaken. "Madison, I spent years building a life for you, but I forgot to live that life with you." She read on. "I thought love meant making sure nothing could ever hurt you, but I see now that I protected you from everything except loneliness." Her tears fell onto the paper. "You deserved more than gifts after absence. You deserved my attention before apology. You deserved a husband who came home not only in body, but in heart." Madison covered her mouth. She could barely breathe. "Tonight is not about showing people we are perfect. It is about telling you I know we are not. But I love you, and if you are willing, I want to learn how to be present before I lose you completely." The words blurred. Madison sank into a chair and sobbed, because while Alexander had been preparing to humble himself publicly, she had been hiding privately. While he was finally trying to return to the marriage, she had been sitting across town with the man who represented her escape from it. And the cruelest truth was this. She had wanted Alexander to see her. That night he finally had. But he had seen her with Ethan. Alexander did not come home that night. He stayed at a hotel, though the irony made him bitter. The next morning Madison called him 14 times. He answered none. She sent one message. "I read the speech. I am so sorry. Please let me talk to you." Hours later he replied, "Not today." 2 words, enough to tell her he was alive, not enough to give her hope. Madison ended things with Ethan that afternoon. He came to the mansion gate, but security would not let him in. So he called. She answered once. "Madison," he said, "I'm sorry about last night." "No, you're sorry we were caught. That's not fair." "Maybe, but it's true." He sighed. "He humiliated you." She looked at the speech on the table. "No," she said. "He loved me. I humiliated myself." Ethan was quiet. Then he said, "You were unhappy." "I was. You came to me because something was still there." "Yes." "Then don't pretend this was nothing." "It wasn't nothing," Madison said. "It was betrayal. It was nostalgia dressed up as courage. It was me running backward because the present hurt." Ethan's voice hardened. "So you're choosing him?" Madison closed her eyes. "I don't know if he'll choose me, but I'm choosing truth now." She ended the call and blocked him. The silence afterward felt enormous. For the first time in months, there was no secret waiting in her phone. Only consequence. The separation became public quietly. That was how wealthy scandals moved. Not through announcements, but through absence. Madison stopped attending events. Alexander appeared alone at a fundraiser. Someone mentioned the canceled anniversary party. Someone else said Madison had been seen downtown with an old boyfriend. Within a week, everyone knew enough to pretend they did not. Alexander refused to discuss it. When a friend asked, "What happened that night?" he replied, "Something private." The friend did not ask again. But privacy did not make the pain smaller. Alexander moved into a penthouse downtown. It was beautiful but cold. After 3 weeks, he moved again, this time into a smaller house in Santa Monica with ocean air, old wooden floors, and no ballroom-sized rooms. He did not want grandeur. Grandeur had failed him. Madison stayed in the mansion at first. Every room accused her. The dining room held the memory of the speech. The foyer held the echo of her returning alone. The bedroom held the silence of Alexander's absence. Her closet held gowns from events where she had smiled beside him while secretly messaging Ethan. She began therapy because grief without truth was just repetition. At the first session, the therapist asked, "What do you want?" Madison answered automatically, "I want my husband back." The therapist nodded. "And what do you want if he does not come back?" Madison had no answer. For years, she had defined herself through Alexander's world, then through Ethan's attention. She did not know who she was when no man was reflecting her back to herself. That realization frightened her more than the divorce papers that would later arrive. Alexander agreed to counseling after 6 weeks, not because he promised reconciliation, because he wanted to understand how a marriage could be dying while both people still loved each other. They sat across from each other in a quiet office with pale walls and a small fountain in the corner. Madison looked thinner. She wore no jewelry, no perfect makeup, no polished rich wife armor. Alexander looked tired. The counselor asked Madison to speak first. She cried before she found words. "I was lonely," she said, "but I don't want that to sound like an excuse." Alexander looked down. "I used your absence to justify my secrecy," she continued. "I told myself Ethan saw me, but I let him see only the version of me that wanted escape. I didn't let him see the cowardice, or the selfishness, or the part of me that still wanted the safety of being your wife." Alexander's jaw tightened. Madison wiped her eyes. "I met him on our anniversary because I was angry that I thought you had forgotten me again. And you hadn't. You were planning a party. You were writing an apology. You were trying." Her voice broke completely. "I am sorry I was standing in my past while you were trying to come back to me." The room was silent. The counselor turned to Alexander. He took a long breath. "I failed you," he said. Madison closed her eyes as tears slipped down her cheeks. "I did. I won't pretend I didn't. I made work my first language and expected you to understand love through translation. I gave you gifts because gifts were easier than vulnerability." He looked at her. "But I was faithful." She nodded. "I know. And I was trying that night. I know. I don't know how to forgive the timing," he said. "I don't know how to forget that on the night I prepared to honor our marriage, you were with the man who made you question it." Madison whispered, "I know." That was all she could say. Because some truths do not need defense. They tried for months, not fully together, not fully apart. They went to counseling. They had dinners where they spoke honestly. Sometimes they cried. Sometimes they laughed. And the laughter hurt because it reminded them of what had been real. Alexander showed Madison the ballroom photos once, not to punish her, because she asked. The event planner had sent images before everything was dismantled. Madison scrolled through them on his phone. White roses, candles, the cake, the stage, a table of framed photographs from their life, the paused slideshow. Madison stopped on one photo, a framed picture of them from their first apartment, sitting on the floor with takeout boxes. She touched the screen. "I remember that night," she said. "Your landlord had shut off the water for repairs. And you tried to wash dishes with bottled water. You said I was the least practical, ambitious man alive." She laughed through tears. Then the laughter faded. "I loved us," she whispered. Alexander looked at the photo. "So did I." For a moment, it seemed possible that love might be enough. But love, they learned, was not a time machine. It could not return them to the room before the betrayal. It could not unshow Alexander what he had seen through the hotel glass. It could not unread the speech in Madison's shaking hands. It could not make the anniversary party happen in the way he had dreamed. 3 months after the canceled party, Madison asked if they could renew their vows privately one day. Not immediately. One day. Alexander did not answer at first. They were walking along the beach at dusk, shoes in hand, waves washing near their feet. "I don't mean soon," she said quickly. "I just mean, if we make it." He looked out at the water. "I don't think vows are the problem," he said. Madison's face fell. He turned to her gently. "I believed the first ones." She closed her eyes. That was when she knew, not because he was cruel, because he was honest. The damage was not that he doubted the beauty of vows. It was that he could no longer place his whole heart inside them with her. A week later, Alexander told her he wanted a divorce. They were sitting in the Santa Monica house, windows open to the evening air. Madison listened silently. "I don't hate you," he said. "I know. I don't want revenge. I know. I think I may forgive you one day. Maybe part of me already does." Tears filled her eyes. "But I can't rebuild a marriage where your heart was still standing in the past on the night I was trying to build a future." Madison bowed her head. She did not beg. She wanted to, but she understood that begging would make his pain responsible for her relief. So she whispered, "I'm sorry." Alexander nodded, eyes wet. "I know. That was the end of the marriage. Not the love, not the grief, but the marriage." The divorce was quiet. Alexander protected Madison from public humiliation because he refused to turn heartbreak into spectacle. Madison accepted responsibility privately with family and close friends. She did not blame Alexander's absence as if it excused Ethan. She did not call the affair a mistake without naming it betrayal. Ethan tried to contact her twice. The first message said, "I still think about what we had." Madison deleted it. The second said, "He never understood you like I did." This time, Madison replied, "You understood my loneliness. You did not protect my integrity. Do not contact me again." Then she blocked him. That was the first time she closed the door to the past without romanticizing it. After the divorce, Madison left Beverly Hills. She moved to a smaller home near Pasadena, one with a garden and no ballroom-sized rooms. She began volunteering with a women's arts foundation. At first, she felt embarrassed to help others find their voices when she had failed to use hers honestly in her own marriage. But over time, she learned that regret could become wisdom if it stopped demanding self-pity. She told younger women, "Do not confuse being seen with being saved." She told friends, "If you are lonely, say it before someone else makes your silence feel like permission." She told herself, "The past is not proof you chose wrong. Sometimes it only looks beautiful because it never had to become responsible." Alexander changed too. He did not stop working, but he stopped worshiping work. He canceled unnecessary meetings. He stopped taking calls during dinner. He learned to sit in quiet rooms without reaching for his phone. He bought a small notebook and wrote things he should have said years earlier, not to send, but to understand. On the first anniversary after the divorce, he returned to the Meridian Hotel. The ballroom was empty. No flowers, no cake, no guests. Just polished floors and city lights beyond the windows. The manager offered to turn on the lights fully, but Alexander said no. He stood alone near the stage where he had planned to give his speech. For months, he had avoided the memory. Now he let it come. Madison laughing in Italy. Madison crying through the speech. Madison with Ethan in the hotel lounge. Madison apologizing and counseling. All of it belonged to the same story. The love had been real. The betrayal had been real. The ending had been necessary. He took the folded speech from his jacket pocket. He had carried it with him that day without quite knowing why. The paper was worn now. He read the first line one last time. "Madison, I spent years building a life for you, but I forgot to live that life with you." Then he folded it carefully and placed it on the empty stage. Not as a message for her, as a goodbye to the night that never happened. Years later, Madison saw a photo online from a charity event at the Meridian. The ballroom looked beautiful, decorated for someone else's celebration. New flowers, new guests, new music. A smiling couple stood beneath the lights. For a moment, the old pain returned. Then it softened. Rooms survive what people cannot. A ballroom can host another celebration. A heart, if honest, can one day hold memory without being ruled by it. Madison closed the photo and looked out at her garden. She thought of Alexander. She hoped he was loved well. She hoped he had found someone who met his honesty before it became regret. And she hoped that she too had become the kind of woman who would never again seek comfort in the past, while someone in the present was trying to love her. That night she wrote in her journal, An anniversary is not saved by flowers, speeches, diamonds, or guests. It is saved by two people choosing truth before the celebration begins. She paused, then wrote the lesson that had cost her a marriage. An anniversary party can fill a room with flowers, music, and applause, but it cannot celebrate a marriage where one heart is secretly standing in the past.